G'day guys and welcome back to your English Aussie. Game week 11 is over and today we're going to talk through game week 12 team observations for upcoming game weeks and what we've seen in game week 11, and then go through some of our player picks and analysis on the best defenders, midfielders and forwards going forwards. So we're going to talk from a more tactical lens on team observations to start with, and then we'll go on to the statistics and what players to look out for going into game week 12. I think we might even finish on a quick first look at a wildcard draft for you guys. I think I'll do a longer video on that tomorrow or the day after. Just maybe for you guys that stay to the end, we'll crack onto a first look at a wildcard draft as well. So firstly, you just talk through the games this weekend, what happened, how the teams looked, and starting with Man City versus Brighton, the game played out sort of exactly as we talked about last week from a tactical perspective. Brighton played how we expected them to play against City. They pressed them high, they pressed them with a lot of energy. And in the first half, City played how we thought City would play against Brighton, and they managed to break through that press with their technical ability and their passing that got Foden on the ball, Gundogan on the ball, Bernardo Silva on the ball in those pockets of space, and they were able to play those balls into Haaland running at the Brighton defence. Pretty much exactly what we talked about last week and on the deadline stream happened for that City goal for Haaland. They broke through the press, played a nice little pass into Haaland running at the Brighton defenders who ran in behind them and tucked away the goal. And I remember watching that game thinking, oh my God, I've got to tell you guys about that later. So, I mean, yeah, unbelievable. And then we said again, like Brighton would cause City problems offensively as well. They have they're really well drilled under Hertzler. They play like really good attacking, high energy transition football. And it just took their toll on City. Like City have obviously had a lot of injuries. Their players are playing a lot of minutes at the moment. And in that second half, Brighton brought on Belieber. He really put in a lot of energy into that team, had a physical presence that he imposed on City, and it really tired them out. Like Brighton, and Hertzler was really smart. He made a lot of substitutes during that early in the second half, and really kept pressing high and really putting the pressure on the City players. And they tired in the second half, and the players just weren't getting into the spots to be able to break through that Brighton press, and Brighton were picking up the ball and winning the ball a little bit more and more. And then they were getting more and more possession, and in the end, it was City towards the end of the game who just didn't have the energy to put a high press on Brighton, and they sat back a little bit, and you don't see that from City very often. But Brighton actually just managed to pick them apart with some really good attacking football. You saw from O'Reilly and João Pedro coming back from injury for those last sort of like 20 minutes. They look like somebody. They're just going to keep scoring goals this season, and João Pedro looks like somebody to watch out for because he came on and looks electric, really. So I'd expect him to be back after the international break. Sorry, I expect him to be back after the international break and starting in that sort of role just behind the striker where Jorginho Root has been playing so well for Brighton. And I think he's really going to be somebody that we should be looking at in our teams going forwards. Brighton have got an amazing fixture run from 12 from next week for the next sort of 6 game weeks from an offensive perspective. And João Pedro could be a really big player from them over that point at 5.4 million price point. There's probably no one else you'll find that is as dynamic, and also probably on penalties for Brighton as well. So yeah, definitely something to look at for Brighton going forwards. Danny Welbeck obviously still a good option for them as well. But I think I'm expecting João Pedro to start. Hertzler talked about him being a talisman for them in the past. And at that forward spot of 5.4, I'd probably go for a João Pedro. On a City's perspective, same thing we've seen. Like obviously De Bruyne came on for them at the end of towards the end of the second half. but again, he didn't really look like he had his legs under him, and Brighton played on that and really sort of he looked like he didn't quite have the legs there to be pressing high and pushing them and winning the ball back off Brighton. And without him in the team, City have just lacked that cutting edge and dynamism for that sort of final play. They still, I mean, it was a bit less so because there were a few more transition opportunities for them in this game. Obviously, with Brighton playing attacking football as well. But yeah, it's good to see De Bruyne coming back, and hopefully that means City will sort of start to pick up a little bit going forwards for them. Interestingly, at the back, we saw Guardiola play at centre back, Lewis at left back, and Walker at right back. I don't think that's something that's going to continue going forwards. And I think it was just mostly due to the injuries of Diaz and some of the other City defenders. But it was just interesting to see that Rico Lewis started again for Man City. Didn't have to, played in midweek in the Champions League, but he started again for Man City. So he was probably somebody I was looking to move out of my team next week, and still might be, to be honest, because the sort of Man City defensively have not been fantastic, and their next few fixtures are not great. I think they've got Tottenham. They go after Tottenham. Tottenham, Liverpool, Forest, Palace in their next four, which is not fantastic from not fantastic in the first two games from a defensive standpoint. Maybe from Forest and Palace they start to pick up, but yeah, I think if you do have Lewis and you do want to keep him, like it does look like he's playing those 90 minutes under Pep. They don't really have a lot of people to rotate. I know Walker's back now. I do expect his minutes to slightly decrease. I was surprised that he started, and I do think like if they've got their centre backs fit, Guardiola will start on the left, and then that right back will be rotated between Lewis and Walker. I think like Pep also said Guardiola might have some rotation, but I just think like the positions he's been taking up. Again, he almost scored against Brighton with a header. He scored 3 goals in the last 5 games for City, so I think he's sort of a lock at the back just for those attacking returns. All the teams around the league have been difficult to forecast who's going to keep a clean sheet, so I think Guardiola for his attacking returns should stay as a lock in that team. And the positions he takes up for City, just super attacking. We can talk about Haaland maybe a bit later when we go through sort of statistical side on it, but I mean, again, it was a good matchup for City and for Brighton this week, and it turned out as we expected. Both teams scored. Maybe not the 2-1 win for Brighton that we were expecting, but definitely for both teams to score in that game was something that we were looking at going into that game week. And Haaland to score again. I think those are did captain him. Obviously, unfortunate that Salah outperformed him and he did get a yellow card, because if he hadn't have got that yellow card, he'd have probably got a bonus point and ended up with maybe 7, which would have been a lot closer to Mo. But yeah, going on to that Liverpool v Aston Villa game, Liverpool again looking much better defensively under Slot than they are as Klopp. They're defending properly. Their fullbacks defend properly, as are their wingers, including Salah. We've talked about this. Like he's coming back more. This is obviously meaning Liverpool are a bit less free flowing from an attacking perspective, and are probably scoring a few less goals this year, and have a bit less energy in their press, and the sort of really high gegenpress that they had under Klopp is not quite the same under Slot, and probably they're not they haven't quite cracked their press yet this year, but they perhaps this is to do with them wanting to be just in a bit more of a solid setup. So if teams do sort of break through, they are able to get back into position much more easily than they were in the past. Obviously, as we've spoken about, Salah's finishing has been just so clinical this year. And he's well performing. He's well outperforming his stats, and we'll go on in the statistical section to have a look at that as well. but he just continues to do so, and his finishing's been so good that he's just somebody that sort of almost feels like a must-have for the next 4 or 5 game weeks. If you do go without him, I mean, at your peril, even against Man City now, I'm sort of feeling like their defence is wavering a little bit, and if they don't get people back, that could still be a good fixture for Liverpool. And yeah, Trent injury. So Trent went off injured after 20 minutes. We've been talking about this season that he's not sort of playing in that as attacking a role as he has done in past seasons, and that's definitely affected his output from a attacking perspective. Although he has been picking up those clean sheet points for Liverpool because they've been defending so well this year. I think the international break hopefully gives him a chance to come back and recover. We'll look out to see if he's playing for England, but I wouldn't expect it. I think Slot said in his interview that he's not expecting Trent to be playing for England over that international break. The fact he went off after 20 minutes, asked to come off, obviously wasn't good news. Once we get more updates on that injury, we'll update you in some of the videos over that international break, post some of those fixtures. From a Villa perspective, just sort of feels like after the Champions League games, they just tend to come out with a little bit of a hangover, not quite have the pace and drive that they always have about them in the non-Champions League weeks. I thought Morgan Rogers still played really well. I thought he was really good in that sort of attacking transition where he drove the ball up the pitch. I did actually think Liverpool just better than expected dealing with that Villa transition. Maybe it was to do with Villa being a little bit less high energy in those transition plays. But something that's sort of caught Liverpool out in the past has been not being so good in transition defensively. I thought they dealt a lot better with that. There were a few chances for Villa. I thought Rodgers was the guy who was really driving that forwards. But yeah, obviously he missed a chance. His finishing has not been fantastic this year. But yeah, he is just. I just do feel like at that price point, he's just so ideal playing in attacking midfield for Villa, who are a team who I do expect to score a lot of goals this year, and have scored goals in the past and have scored goals this year. It's just with those Champions League matches, is there going to be a rotation? He's obviously a guy who runs a lot for them and plays a lot of high energy minutes. But yeah, we'll see how that goes going forwards. One of the things you did see for Villa is that they really struggle down that right hand side. They don't quite know how to get the balance right. I think today they're lacking Matty Cash on the right. They had Concert playing at right back and Carlos in the middle with Pau Torres, and then they had Bailey on right wing. And you just feel like they've either got Bailey or McGinn on that right. Bailey's almost like trying to give them that attacking output, but just hasn't quite given that this year. And then obviously is not getting back enough and defensively making it more difficult for them. And McGinn almost the opposite. Like, yeah, he's dropping in and helping out defensively, but he just doesn't quite give them that attacking spark that they need going forwards. Yeah, he's sort of like McGinn playing against Son was sort of helping out so much defensively and not quite giving them that spark going forwards. And then, yes, I think Villa haven't quite managed to work it out yet. I think Unai Emery will work it out. He's been very smart, always making good tactical changes for Villa. And like hopefully they work that out soon because they're going to need a bit more attacking impetus going forwards. I think they've struggled over the last few games. Watkins not quite looked as sharp as he has done in the past. I think he's still positionally getting into some good positions, but just not quite the same as he has done last year, and also just over the last sort of season or so for Villa. I think his finishing's maybe he's lacking a little bit of confidence this season. Is it time to sell Watkins? Well, I've got him in my team at the moment, and I just keep looking at the next fixture against Crystal Palace. If it wasn't Crystal Palace, he'd probably be going from my side. But Palace have just been so poor this year, and we'll move on to them on one of the next slides. But they've been so poor this year that it's difficult for me to just validate selling Watkins for that fixture. So yeah, that's a bit of a difficult one. They then come up against Chelsea. which you think maybe we can sell for, but then after that they got Brentford and Southampton, which are both good attacking fixtures. So kind of a difficult one to sell Watkins over the next four, even though there are so many nice, juicy looking strikers to go in for that I'm super keen to get into, and we'll talk about them. Well, we're going to talk about one of them now in Wissa at Brentford. Again, Brentford Bournemouth. We said before the game it's going to be high-paced, fast transition football. We're expecting both teams to score, and that is exactly what we got. We got action-packed end-to-end, 3-2 to Brentford. A lot of goals, probably even more than I expected, to be honest. And yeah, Brentford at home. That's just what happens. They have the best home form in the Premier League. I think 16 points from 6 home games, 5 or 6 home games. No, of 6 home games. 5 wins and a draw at home. Unbelievable, unbelievable at home at the moment. And Johan Wissa, I keep talking about him because I keep saying he's just got incredible footballing IQ. Last year when Tony was in the side, he was picking up those great positions still. He was scoring last minute winners for Brentford. This year playing up front by himself, he's just brilliant. His positional awareness is incredible. His finishing's been so calm. He's so composed. And to be honest, for me, if he wasn't going to AFCON in 17, he'd be like the first guy I'd be getting in on the team sheet. It's just I've just got that in the back of my mind that he's going away and I'm going to have to find a way to get him out of my team. But yeah, I just think Brentford just with Wissa in there, and they've got Everton, Leicester, Villa, Newcastle over the next 4 games. I could see going for a double up. I could really, or even just going Wissa over Mbumo. I know that's probably. I think we've got so many Mbumo owners at the moment, but I'm really tempted to just go Wissa up top. Maybe Mbumo to Saka or something like that. But yeah, we'll see. I think you could easily go for a double up with Brentford, knowing that they're scoring so many goals at the moment. If you do have that sort of coverage on the bench, maybe you slowly move across to Wissa over the next couple of weeks. Everton, Leicester are both good fixtures. And then maybe in 14 you can come out of them, or 14 or 15 against Villa or Newcastle, you can come out of them Mbumo for somebody else. Yeah, so I mean that was just as we discussed. And then another high quality striker was in the Wolves Southampton game with Cunha, was scoring an incredible goal. And Cunha, I sort of watched a bit more of Wolves, and I was saying I got a bit keener on Cunha last week because I wasn't really sold on the hype for a while. But I just saw how crucial he was watching a few more of the Wolves previous games. I went back and watched some. He was so crucial in everything that Wolves do. And he almost has a little bit of I wouldn't say a free role in the team, because you heard Gary O'Neill come and talk about how they're trying to integrate him in the team, but he's able to move into the positions where he sees fit, but also still trying to link the play. And Wolves, they're playing this sort of 3-4-2-1 really, 3 centre backs, 2 wing backs in Semedo and Aït-Nouri that are basically wingers, right? And then Lamina and Gomez as the holding midfielders, and then 2 attacking midfielders as Cunha and Sarabia, and then Strand Larsen up top. And yeah, just they don't really have any sort of. There's no creatives in that Wolves side. Cunha is really the creative player in that Wolves side. And they don't have fantastic technical ability in that midfield, so they're not really able to play these nice intricate passes and stuff. And they sort of hit some diagonal long balls to the wing backs that are flinging forwards. And then they're a little bit more direct, I'd say, with their play. And that means that Cunha is really that one creative spark in the midfield, because they sort of lack that technical creative ability. And that is a problem for Wolves in terms of sort of keeping possession, keeping hold of the ball, because of the direct nature of the way they play. And I think you saw even in that Southampton game, I think Southampton had something like 70% possession in that game, maybe even more than that. And that is going to be a problem for Wolves going forwards when they do play some of the better teams. And I know they've got a good fixture run at the moment, and they've got sort of like, I think Fulham, Bournemouth, Everton, West Ham is the next four. But I think they are going to find it just a little bit more difficult against some of these teams who are a bit better defensively set up than Southampton, to be able to sort of get these attacking returns. But like if they're scoring like Cunha's intricate like key in everything that they do, and obviously his goal was just a fantastic goal. Like it wasn't a big chance or anything. Just like he's a great player. It was a fantastic finish. But yeah, as much as I think he's a great player for Wolves and they do have good fixtures, I don't think they're a fantastic team. I think they will struggle going forwards against some of the bigger teams. So he's a good pick over the next 4 game weeks. But I would say there are also other strikers that are also good picks over the next 4 game weeks. The one thing he does have on his side is he doesn't go off to AFCON, obviously being Brazilian. So he is a long-term pick that you can keep in till 19. Yeah, Southampton sort of caused their own problems in that game. Again, like they're still trying to play out from the back. That's the style of football they want to play. Understand, like this is a thing at the moment going forwards, but they're just not really very good at it. And Ramsdale is not good at playing out from the back with his feet. Like he often is making mistakes. They're just inviting teams to high press and win the ball high, and then just and score goals against them. And that's what Wolves did. Like they won the ball high, and like Wolves obviously struggled to sort of build up and in their build up play, and Southampton played right into their hands. They sort of gave the ball away, made mistakes, and Wolves pickpocketed them really for that 2-0 win, with like not a lot of possession, not a lot of the ball. Ain't Nuri put down there must buy. Is he like? I think for me, he's probably one of the most attacking fullbacks you've got. He's basically playing as a winger. He gets into amazing positions. And the next couple of games next 4 games for Wolves, they've got some chances of keeping clean sheets. Fulham, Bournemouth, Everton, West Ham. Like they're not the greatest teams. Like I would say Fulham are decent, Bournemouth attacking are decent, Everton not looking good, West Ham decent. But they could keep 1 clean sheet, 2 clean sheets over those 4 game weeks is possible. And with his attacking returns, really that's what we're looking at for defenders at the moment in FPL, because you know the style of play and the way the teams are playing this year. There's just not a lot of clean sheets other than the really big teams. It's just so hard to predict that you want to look for players with a good fixture run or with great attacking potential. And Ain't Nuri's got both of them. So for me, like he's really someone you want to get in your team. Obviously, the downside is he's 1 yellow card still away from a suspension. Moving on from that, we'll go on to Palace Fulham. I thought Fulham again. I spoke about maybe earlier in the season. They're one of the teams that have really good sort of fast progressive ball carries. They really carry the ball quickly up the field as a team, and their team is set up for that. They've got Iwobi Nelson playing on the wings, Smith Rowe breaking from midfield, Adama Traore coming on late playing that same sort of role, and Jimenez being able to sort of also like hold the ball up and let these guys fly by and play those passes for them. So I thought like that's the way Fulham set up, and that's their style. Are they sticking to it? I think Palace have been pretty poor defensively this year. I mean, they've been poor both ends of the pitch. They've really lacked creativity. Elise was a big loss for them going to Bayern. Now Eze's out as well. Like they just look like they're devoid of ideas to score. And yes, it's difficult to pick for Palace at the moment just because they looked so good towards the end of last season, and they've just not really managed to show that this season. Emil Smith Rowe again picked up some really good positions. I think he's one of those guys who he'll score sometimes going through the season. He'll have some really good games where he just finds those pockets of space and gets those goals. He's not somebody that's going to be consistent throughout the season. He does lack a bit of consistency in his game. I think he did at Arsenal. He still does at Fulham. But he is a good player. He does pick up some good positions. At that price point, if there is someone that maybe you want to go into over a good fixture run or something, I don't think he's a bad pick, but you probably want to target when Fulham have good fixture runs for that. and for him. West Ham, Everton. I think a few guys asked me on the live stream to go for Fabianski, and I picked him over like a Flecken and a couple of other goalies. I think I did pick Raya over him in one of them just because I found it so hard to go for Fabianski, like a West Ham keeper over an Arsenal keeper, having seen how bad West Ham's defence was. But like I said on the live stream, I thought it was a good game for West Ham defensively, just because of the way Everton set up. And Everton's play style is sort of, they're quite direct long balls, and West Ham's real defect in defensively is they're poor in transition and they struggle to get back quickly. And that you saw that after like honestly like 3, 4, 5 minutes of that game. Like they lost the ball in midfield and Everton managed to break on them. One of the few breaks Everton did have on them in the game, just like the way the Everton play, like they don't particularly press high, and they don't play fast like progressive football like Fulham do. So they only had a couple of chances here, but you saw the guy who got back to make the basically goal saving tackle was Somerville, who's the winger, and there was like no other West Ham defenders or like central midfielders getting back. He's come back. He's run like 70 yards, full length slide tackle, saved the goal. I like fantastic play from him. But it just shows how poor West Ham are at getting back in transition. And like they're just going to continue to concede goals against teams that are going to like break quickly, counter attack, just like Nottingham Forest did last week. They're going to concede goals against those teams. And just, unfortunately, like Everton play style, they just didn't really adapt and play the way they needed to against West Ham to get the goals. They're obviously lacking a bit of a creative spark. Calvert-Lewin's finishing has been very poor this season, so yeah, we sort of called that to be a low-scoring game, both ways really. And I just thought maybe West Ham just have a little bit more quality in the team, and I thought they might score. And obviously, like they were maybe the slightly better side, had a few more chances, but just didn't quite have enough cutting edge to get the goal, ending in a 0-0 draw, which yeah, probably an okay result for Everton. Probably not the greatest result for West Ham. Lopetegui, he's really needs to pick them up. Otherwise, yeah, he might be struggling going forwards. And then obviously, like this, well, the more recent games, Chelsea, Arsenal, Forest, Newcastle. Yeah, so Chelsea, Arsenal was a really tactical battle, I think, in that game. Like neither team really wanted to lose the game. I don't think either team tried super hard to win the game. It was a bit of a like very tactical affair. I felt like Arsenal obviously implemented Thomas Partey man marking Palmer in the first half, where Palmer was maybe playing a little bit more central. And in that second half, Maresca moved him to the left, and Gusto was playing like basically an inverted 10. Like he played like an inverted wing, like fullback role as basically like an inside right 10, in that sort of attacking midfield role. And Palm was like inside left, inside Neto. He just didn't really have the creative freedom and the space to be able to be getting in between the lines of Arsenal, which is where he operates so well. And like maybe it was because of the way that Arsenal were playing him and trying to man mark him, and they wanted to sort of give space to other players and sort of move him away. Like sometimes the Barcelona teams of the past did when teams would man mark Messi. Messi would sort of drift and allow other players to come in and into that space. I think that's sort of what Maresca was going for, but I think it sort of isolated Palmer a little bit. He wasn't able to get in the best positions for himself, and he really needs to be in the 10 to be his most active, getting in between the lines. And I think that's where Chelsea are best. And they're playing best when Palmer's able to get in those positions, get on the ball a little bit more. And I wonder whether other teams are going to implement that against Chelsea, because I did think like that did make it a little bit harder on him. And if Maresca does see that and then does sort of shift him, do Chelsea have that sort of creativity aside from him to be able to impact the game as much? So it'll be interesting to see Chelsea going forwards whether other teams sort of implement that man marking on Palmer. But yeah, I mean, he's a great player. He's still going to create chances regardless of that. So I still think he's a good pick going forwards with that Chelsea fixture run from 12. Arsenal on the other side sort of just feels like we're waiting for their injuries to subside to say, yeah, they're back. I thought they looked a lot better with Odegaard playing. Just had a little bit more creativity. Helps Havertz not having to drop into that sort of midfield role, and he can sort of play a little bit higher and be able to get on the end of chances. They're still super heavily reliant on Saka. Obviously, him and Rice picked up a knock. I'm guessing he'll be okay our post international break, but obviously something to keep an eye on and just make sure he's okay. Obviously, he asked to come off in a big game, so not great news. We'll obviously wait and see. I'm expecting him not to be playing for England over the break, but yeah, if he does, yeah, it means he's okay. So we'll see going forwards what sort of shape he's in. Forest Newcastle also sort of like a bit of a game of two halves. I thought Forest played their own style in the first half, defended, played on the counter. I think they're still a brilliant team. I think Wood's still a brilliant striker and asset. I think the way they play counter-attacking with Gibbs White, Hudson-Odoi, Ilanga sort of breaking at pace and striking teams at pace have been amazing. And I think they got caught out almost playing not their own style and being a bit too aggressive and got caught out doing what they do to other teams, what Newcastle did to them. Basically at 1-1, like it was a bit of a scrappy goal. Newcastle's first goal, great finish from Isak. He's looking really sharp now and sort of back to his um, old sharp self. And I think is somebody to look out for going forwards. Newcastle have got a really nice fixture on over the next few game weeks. They got West Ham and Palace before Liverpool, and then Brentford after that. So sort of three of those four really good from an attacking perspective. But yeah, after it went to 1-1, Forest sort of started to open up, press a little bit higher. And that second goal, their midfield was super high, got caught out of position. Newcastle countered them and scored the goal. And then at 2-1, they were sort of really pushing up and going for it. And their midfield and their defence were caught out of position. Even their fullbacks were like bombed up forwards. Aina and Moreno like weren't back. And then Newcastle just countered them. They had like a little 3-on-2 and managed to score. Harvey Barnes just slotting one in at the end. But I think like normally, like I think Nuno will correct that next week. They won't make that mistake. I think he sort of acknowledged that in the press conferences in a way that he can. They're normally defensively excellently set up. They've got a really good understanding in that back four. The spacing in that back four is great. The two centre backs, Milenkovic and Murillo, I think are amazing. I think Murillo has super high football IQ, reads the game really well. I think he's got all the attributes to be a fantastic CB. And he obviously got the goal for Forest, so got on the end of one. Maybe an option going forwards. I'd probably say when Forest's fixture swing comes in 18, 19, they have a really good defensive fixture run. Their defenders are going to be highly sought after, if not already. Really, like I wouldn't oppose you going for them. They've been so good defensively. The other games I didn't sort of really have time to talk through, and I didn't really have time to fully watch the recaps. And I know some of you think I'll be dodging the Bruno Fernandes discussion, but yeah, United Leicester, one goal for Bruno and it's like an OG assist. Yeah, man, like he played great. Leicester aren't very good defensively. It's just hard. I think, like I said, like over the 3 weeks, like yeah, he's probably a good, like he's a good punt. Like United have good fixtures. They got Ipswich and Everton next, so they can score goals. And then they got Arsenal in 14 and Forest in 15, which are like, not great attacking fixtures. So for me, like he's not a must-have. Like he's not somebody that I'd be like desperate to get in my team in the midfield. Sort of depends how you're set up. Like if you're looking for like a 3 premiums, he's probably not the guy at 8.2 to fit into that side. If maybe you got 2 premiums, maybe you got like a Mbumo and Fernandez, yeah, maybe that works in your side. I would say potentially a Gordon's just a good shout as well. Newcastle have got like an even better fixture on, in my opinion. I just think you just don't know how Amorim's going to come in and take over from next week. Now he's coming in after that was Reed's last game in charge of United. So I think Fernandez is a bit of a punt, to be honest. Like I think he's a bit of a punt. I don't think he's a bad punt, but just United is so unpredictable. It's hard for me to want to put in anybody from their team in the attack. Yeah, I do think like Garnacho and Ahmad look nice as well, but again, minutes, who's going to start for them? Hard to pick. I think if you're going to talk about United, I think Diego Dalot is going to be a good defensive pick, and also if Amorim does put forward the 3-4-3 sort of ish that he plays at Sporting, he's going to be playing super high as a fullback. But again, like I was talking on live stream, a couple of the United fans that I know were saying they might play Garnacho at fullback and Dalot or Mazraoui might miss out. So I think I'd be surprised to see Dalot miss out. I think he's a really high quality player, but yeah, I think they're just a wait and see. They're just a wait and see for me. Bruno's obviously the one guy that is locked. So if you are going to punt, I'd punt Bruno. But yeah, just not for me. Just not for me. Too many unknowns about United setup, and I just don't think, other than the next 2 fixtures, I just don't think the greatest fixture run in the world. So yeah, there was another game, wasn't there? What was the game? If I missed a game, what was the last game that game week? One more, no? Oh, Spurs Ipswich. Yeah, man. That was a terrible game for me. I had Johnson and Porro. I know Porro got the assist, but Spurs. Yeah, Andrew's got to work it out. He's got to work it out how to play against a team that sit back, because Spurs just lack so much cutting edge. Johnson, like I was saying on live stream, just doesn't look like he's in the right positions for me. Like he's a massive sell. You got to I would say, get him out. He's just not picking up the positions that you want, even though he's scored goals over the past few weeks. He's just, yeah, for me, he doesn't look like somebody who's getting into the positions that you want as a winger. He's sort of either sitting out wide, or then when the ball does get away, he's not really looking to get out there and put crosses and make assists in the box. Like, just don't see how he's going to get an attacking return unless they're on the counter attack. And for that to happen, they need to break down teams that are going to sit and play a low block against them. And teams are going to do that. Like, excluding maybe Man City next week. Like, yeah, they're gonna struggle if Ange doesn't work it out. But big up Ange, Aussie man. He's going to find a way. I do think Solanke still looks good. Like stuff goes into Solanke, he looks dangerous, and obviously Son as well. But yeah, Spurs fixtures. Son against City though, he always scores against City. So apart from that, Spurs fixtures not amazing. Porro, someone I'm also looking to get out of my team. There's a few things I want to change at the moment. Just wish I'd not made the mistake to go Porro over Ait Nori a while back, and I'd be seeing pretty, I think, my team at the moment. Yeah, so that is all the games for the week. And now we're going to go on to the statistical analysis of the best statistical sort of defenders, midfielders, forwards. And then I'll talk through my sort of player picks based off the tactical and the statistical side. We'll run through that now as we go through. So here we've got the defenders with the best non-penalty expected goals and assists over the season. Green, obviously, I think are really good picks. Orange are discussion points, and reds are probably guys I'd look to avoid at the moment, or also sort of a little bit of discussion points. So Trent and Robbo. Trent just picked up the injury. And Robbo is sort of like a rotation with Tsimikas at the moment. And Trent's just not picking up those attacking positions that I want. Liverpool I do really like defensively. And if I was to go for one of their defenders, and you might see I have gone for one of them, it would be probably Konate at the price point. to pick up those Liverpool clean sheets, who've really been the only team that have consistently been dropping them in this season. So yeah, that's that cool. Couple of other guys to talk about. Obviously, Aït-Nouri, I just think that fixture run for Wolves is great. The attacking positions that he's picking up are just insane. Like, he's basically playing as a winger. He's got good statistical output, obviously 0.22, 0.12 expected goals, 0.22 expected goals and assists. Really picks up those high positions. Almost got another assist on the weekend. Yeah, for me, like, also, um, if you're looking for somebody at that budget pick right now, he is my number one pick, I would say. If you're not concerned about your defence, then like maybe that's a different matter. But I think if that's where you're looking to make your transfers and that's your priority, Aït-Nouri is probably number one. Diego Dalot, Lewis Hall, for me, just with the Newcastle fixture run, West Ham, Palace, Liverpool, Brentford, I think it's like pretty nice. I know Liverpool, Brentford's probably not the best, but Newcastle are looking a lot better defensively. Lewis Hall's really got a good link up going down that left hand side now. There is a chance that sort of Trippier comes back and that affects the minutes after the international break. But I think Lewis Hall's been playing really well. I expect him to start in the next game against West Ham. And yeah, decent assist output going down that left flank. So yeah, I think that's just an interesting shout if you're looking for somebody a little bit different, a little bit lower price point. He's only at 4.3 million at the moment. If I just quickly look at potential price rises, if he's with a chance of increasing, yeah, he's got a chance of increasing over the next few days, but not tonight. So he's not an urgent get in overnight. So yeah, he's a guy that I definitely look at going forward. A couple of other guys that I want to talk about as well is Luca Dean at Villa. He's obviously on corners, he's on set pieces, he's really playing high up that left for Villa. Villa really needing the sort of creative spark from their fullbacks at the moment, and that additional creativity. I think he's looked really nice from an assist potential. And with Palace, Chelsea, Brentford, Southampton over the next four, I'm looking at that now and I just like that more and more looking at it. I know Villa just don't look good defensively, don't look like keeping a clean sheet. Same way that Wolves don't look like that to me. So Luca Dean, Aït-Nouri both look like really nice picks for me. I would say they're both equally probably quite good almost now as I'm talking. I think Luca Dean should probably be a green on there. Diego Dalot, United, obviously, as I spoke about, Ipswich, Everton, good fixtures. Nottingham Forest, also a good fixture from a defensive perspective. Arsenal, probably the tricky one there. I think he might have a chance to increase that sort of expected goals and assist output statistically in the Amarin system if he puts in that system. Obviously, it's again, if you're a bit nervous and you don't want to take risks defensively, maybe it's a wait and see like what his system is and who he goes for. But then you do miss out on that Ipswich game. So yeah, I think Ipswich might have a goal in them. They've been like quite good at scoring. So yeah, maybe it's fine to go in for that Everton game. But yeah, Diego Dalot for me is somebody that definitely look to get in your team if you're looking somebody at that sort of that middle of the board price point in the sort of early fives. At a decent, like a good defensive team. Yeah, I think Dalot's someone that looks nice. Moving on into the midfield, obviously Palmer and Salah are the main two guys that we're all looking to bring in at the moment. Next week they've got Leicester and Southampton. They're the two big captaincy options for next week, in my opinion. Maybe with Bruno as an outside punt, but definitely won't hear me recommending that to anybody. I think Salah's obviously, just as we've talked about, just super clinical, and Southampton passing the ball out from the back, just going to be super susceptible to Liverpool and their press. And I think they're going to press even harder against them, to be honest, because they lack a little bit more threat going forwards. Palmer obviously got sort of played a little bit out of the game, but against Leicester, who've been really poor defensively, I think obviously United just put three past them. I think he's and Bruno is sort of in a similar role to what Palmer will be looking to play. Obviously got a goal and assist, which was almost a goal. So I think Palmer could he's going to be a really tough pick for captaincy this week between Palmer and Salah. I'm almost inclined to go Palmer, but it's hard to go against Mo Salah after the few game weeks he's been putting up, and the fact that Palmer has had the potential to blank and Salah's just been consistently returning. Yeah, it's really hard to go against that, and Liverpool obviously playing great. Outside of that, like there's obviously Saka, who again, if you're looking for a freemium option, I think a lot of people are going to that sort of move out of Hull and go into like that freemium in the midfield. Wait and see on the injury. But otherwise, yeah, he's such a key player for Arsenal. And going forwards, especially from game week 13 when they have West Ham, that's probably for me the week that he has to be in your side. You might be able to go without him in game week 12 against Forest, who are like obviously a good defensive side, and it might cause Arsenal some problems defensively with their low block. But I guess with Odegaard back, things might be a bit better for Arsenal. But yeah, I would say Saka's someone that you definitely want to look to get in from 13, and you want to have in there for that nice Arsenal fixture run going forwards. Maybe at a slightly like the lower price point. Yeah, Bruno Fernandes. Yeah, everyone will want to hear me talk about Bruno Fernandes. Yeah, Bruno Fernandes, as I said, not a bad option over the next couple of game weeks. Ipswich and Everton. He's going to be playing. Just for me, just doesn't instill confidence in me. I know he's got almost the two. We'll call it 2 goals, right? Goal and assist, but in this week, but you just never know what you're going to get with United. Obviously, they were good under Ruud. Are they still going to be good under Amarim? Is he going to score each week? Like, I don't know. I don't feel confident. That's what it is. I just don't feel confident with him. I don't think he's a bad option. I just don't feel confident about having him in my team. And at that 8.3 million, I just think there are so many guys that I'm super confident in that I'd love to have in my team, whether it's forwards in like João Pedro's, Cunha's, Wissers, or whether it's midfielders like Salah, Saka's, Palmer's. Yeah, it just doesn't fill me with a real want to have him in at that 8.3 million price point. It's a bit of an awkward one. A couple of other guys I like, obviously, Antoine Semenyo this season has been playing really well for Bournemouth. And Bournemouth have got a really nice fixture run. Even the next 4, I think, are all nice. Brighton, Wolves, Spurs, and Ipswich. Like, there's goals in all those games. Brighton, there's always goals against Brighton. Wolves have been awful defensively. Tottenham can't keep a clean sheet to save their life. And Ipswich, obviously, are a team to target this year. So those next 4 games for Semenyo are really nice if you're looking to bring in a cheap midfielder or like sort of, come out of somebody for if you're looking to put more money elsewhere and you want sort of a cheaper midfielder. I think Semenyo is lovely at that price. I think Rodgers is really nice over the next 4 game weeks. Palace, Chelsea, Brentford, and Southampton as well. I think both of those guys really like the nice cut price options at the moment that you could be looking for on the upcoming game weeks. Sort of like a bit more of an outsider pick is maybe Matoma at Brighton. They've got some good fixtures coming up. And then Adama Traore obviously lost his spot for Fulham. And I think he, even though he's got great expected goal and assist, can't finish. And yeah, he's now sort of second choice, it looks like, to Reece Nelson, who's come and played nicely for them. So I know he picked up the assist, but I'm sure it might be again Reece Nelson going forwards. So yeah, we'll see what happens with Fulham. I think Adama could start, but yeah, he's probably somebody I would look to take out of my team, as he's now a minute's risk as well as not being able to finish off his chances for those expected goals. Other Liverpool guys, Diaz and Jota, they're people that I would consider starting to look at and think about when you think after the international break. I think Diego Jota might be somebody that's like got to come back into your team. I think he'll start as the number 9 over Darwin. And if he doesn't start as the number 9 over Darwin, he could easily start in that right wing role when Salah moves out for AFCON in 17. So him, Diaz, definitely 2 guys that I would be looking at going forwards at coming and bringing into that Liverpool team as that sort of mid-price, horrible price point that you could have a Bruno Fernandes instead of. And yeah, the only guy that we spoke about, Brennan Johnson, Brennan and Son, basically. So I think Son is still a nice option. I think they look left more than they look right, and when they do look right, Brennan's sort of tucking in a little bit. Kulusevski's either out there picking up the ball, overlapping. Porro's either there looking to play the deep crosses. Johnson doesn't look like he's sort of got any real assist potential. As you can see from that, his expected goals 0.56, expected assist 0.63. Just doesn't pick up nice positions. And I just don't feel like, unless Spurs are counter-attacking, he picks up great positions either on a low block. I just sort of not really seeing the opportunities for him to score goals. So for me, he's move out of at the moment. I've got him in my team as well, and I'm looking to move out of him. Yeah, he's just a bit of an awkward guy to have in at the moment. So yeah, for me, Johnson is a sell at the moment. That's probably the midfielders that I wanted to talk about. Moving on to the forwards, and we have the man João Pedro back for Brighton. Goal and assist in 20 minutes, 5.4 million, 0.62 expected goal and assist, 0.4 expected goals. He sits in there between Cunha and Welbeck on that list. It just filtered out based off minutes and how much he's played this season. I sort of filtered it out. Otherwise, you're going to have guys in there that have played 2 minutes with like 1.6 expected goals. Yeah, I think he looks so good for Brighton with that fixture run: Bournemouth, Southampton, Fulham, Leicester over the next 4 game weeks. Yeah, just looks so good for Brighton going forwards. And he's the talisman. He's probably going to be on penalties, I think, for them. At 5.4, he's never going to find somebody else at that price that's as good value. But you are going to find Johan Wissa at 6.1, who, again, Brentford, great fixture run, someone that you just want in your team. You almost want like Wissa, João Pedro, Cunha as a front three, in my opinion. Like, there's no way that I don't think anyone's got that. Like, if someone does have that, probably on a wild card. Maybe we'll look at a wild card with 3 of them in. But like over the next 4 or 5 game weeks, if you had those 3 up front, they're going to score a ton of points for you. I think a ton of points. Only other person that I'd probably or the other couple of people that I think about, just sort of maybe a higher price point, which is why I like these 3, is Isak and Jackson. And like, I think for Jackson, it's like, well, if you've got Palmer in your team, to double up on teams, you've got to be really confident that they're going to score a lot of goals every week. Because otherwise, like, for example, this week, I know Chelsea scored a goal, but like, they scored 1. No Jackson, no Palmer. You got 2 blanks in your team already. Isak, if Newcastle, like for example, Newcastle's blank, if you had like an Isak Gordon or something like that, yeah. So I think you've got to be careful on double up. So maybe Isak wasn't a good example, but I think Nicholas Jackson for me, I'm going to have Palmer in. So although I like Nicholas Jackson as an option, I just think there are other midfielders that sort of spread the risk in a game week. And at the lower price points, I just really like those 3. Isak, I think, is an option if you're looking for that sort of price and like that's where you want to be. I think Isak, Watkins. I'd probably almost say I'd go with Isak, especially over the next 4 weeks. West Ham, Palace, Brentford, probably nicer than Palace. Yeah, Palace, Brentford, Southampton, basically the same, maybe. But Watkins just seems like a little bit in less good form. There might be a bit of rotation with the Champions League. You're just not as worried around Isak and minutes for Newcastle. I think. Yeah, so for me, I think best my top 3 would be João Pedro, Wissa, and Cunha. I really like the look of those 3 guys. But yeah, also like Isak. I just think those 3 are my top 3 for strikers. And for once, I've got Erling Haaland as an orange. I think if there are game weeks to go without him, 12, 13, 14 look nice. 15 for Palace doesn't look so nice to be without him. But yeah, I think after that, United and then a Villa in 16 and 17, and then you want to get Haaland back really for 18. They have just a nice fixture on Everton, Leicester, West Ham, Brentford, Ipswich. So I don't think it's a long stint that I want to be without Erling Haaland, and then it would probably be a swap season back in 17, 18, back to Haaland. Don Calvert-Lewin can't score. He's in red for me. Mateta, Palace are just lacking that creativity, like I talked about with Elise and Eze out. Also a red for me, and that's why you can also see them down there. I think Tom Calvert-Lewin's surprisingly low. He probably actually has quite a lot of expected goals and assists, but he can't score any of them. Yeah, as you can see from, he's got 2 goals and 1 assist. Probably you've got people with like Liam Delap, Vardy, and Strand Larsen below him with lower expected goals and assists, scored away more goals than him this season. So you can tell he's not finishing his chances well. Similarly to, I guess, Darwin Núñez, but we know that about Núñez. His finishing is not brilliant, but he's going to get a lot of chances for Liverpool, probably playing in that number 9 role. I think that probably covers most people on here. Jimenez and Solanke. I like Jimenez. I think he's really crucial for Fulham. I just think compared to a lot of the other strikers on this list and with Fulham's current fixture run, he's more of an orange than a green for me. But that's sort of like when we talk maybe on this channel like tactics, stats, form, fixtures. Tactically, yeah, he's great for Fulham. Stats, good. Form, good. Fixtures, not so great. So he's 3 out of the 4. I think he's nice for the next game week at Wolves. If you've got him, keep him. I think Tottenham might not suit Fulham so much, and Brighton will probably be a scoring game as well. And then Arsenal, obviously, and then their fixtures are not great after that. I mean, they got Liverpool, Southampton, Chelsea after that. So Arsenal, Liverpool, Southampton, Chelsea, 15 onwards. Just a little bit difficult for Jimenez in that period. Solanke, again, like Spurs fixtures, not amazing. I still think he's a nice striker. I wouldn't say like go out of him. I know like this week is probably, if you're going to go out of him, maybe this week's the week to go with City. And don't think that'll be easy, but City have not been defending well and conceding goals. So again, I'm expecting a Son goal against City on the counter. He always grabs one against them. So yeah, for me, like that's the sort of best defenders, midfielders, forwards, and these are my 4 personal picks for the week that I'd be looking at. I actually think, having gone through this stream, another guy that I'd be looking at is Luca Dean, potentially even over Lewis Hall. But I just thought at that 4.3, if you're looking to save a little bit of extra money, that 4.3 over like a 4.78 Nuri and Luca Dean, if you need that extra 0.4 million, then I think Hall's the go-to guy. Fixtures are good for Newcastle. They seem to be coming into a bit of form, and his link-up plays really started to improve up that left. Newcastle were looking a little bit more defensively solid. And while Trippier's out, he's definitely nailed down that left back spot. We'll see what happens after the international break. Another guy who we haven't talked about, Konate. I think for Liverpool at 5.3 million, if you're looking around that mid-price, the same price as like a Delo, who'd also be a good shout, I think he just looks really nice from a clean sheet perspective for Liverpool. They've been really good at keeping clean sheets. And he's probably the one guy, if you want to set and forget, that you're not going to worry about in your team and you're just going to hope for a clean sheet for Liverpool each week, maybe Konate is the one to go for. And then up front, I think these 2 guys, along with Cunha as well, probably the 3 strikers that you're looking to go for. I think these 2 are probably my top picks at the moment. Yeah, just fantastic fixtures, great form, tactically important in their team. So tactically, tick. Stats, look at those stats, unbelievable. Tick. Fixtures, tick. Form, tick. So for me, these 2 guys are really top class and very important in their teams. Yeah, so guys, I think those are probably the key things I wanted to go through with you guys this week. We've been on for an hour. I'm not sure whether we want to do a quick sort of little quick wild card draft. I want to retain your attention. Maybe as a bonus for you guys that watch this long, let's do a quick wildcard draft. I think I roughly put together something I was thinking about this week. I'll chuck it up on the screen. Please, if you've enjoyed this sort of video and these thoughts, subscribe to my channel. We're obviously a growing channel at the moment. And I want to try and build my subscriber base and fan base. And obviously, post comments on your teams if you want me to answer questions in the week, especially at the moment with this sort of wildcard window. I reply to all the comments, same in my live streams. That's why it's good following some of the smaller streamers. We can reply to all your comments in the chat. So yeah, please like and subscribe if you like these sort of videos. If there is anything else that you're looking for in these sort of videos as well, let me know. I'm obviously keen to cater my content towards you guys and what you're after. But yeah, just looking at a wild card over the next few weeks, maybe this Verbruggen and Brighton's a bit of a rogue call. It could easily be a Sells or a Sanchez. Don't love Chelsea defensively either, really, but this is sort of something, and I guess we talked about a lot of these players. Fabianski as well, I think, is really nice. I think Sanchez, maybe if I look in a bit more detail later in the season, later in this week, who rotates nicely with Fabianski over the next sort of few game weeks, longer term. Maybe we'll look into that, see what works. But for now, let's just say a Sanchez and a Fabianski. Arsenal have got a good fixture run, so I'm pretty keen to stick with one of their defenders, Gabriel. Their people are going to come back after this international break. Hopefully, they'll be a bit more defensively solid. Aina for me, that could easily be like a Dina for the time being, and then maybe we could look to go into like that's a nice fixture run defensively for Villa, and he's super attacking. I know they've been poor defensively, but he could get some assists over that run. Guardiola, I just think attackingly, even though City don't have probably not an amazing fixture run, but offensively he's just so good. I think he's got to be in there. Then Aït-Nouri, I just think's a lock at the moment on a wild card. Definitely have him in over the next 5 game weeks. And then I just thought Konate's got a really nice game week next week against Southampton. He's someone that's quite nice to have in there for that next game week when maybe you got like Gabriel. You probably don't. Yeah, I mean, all of them are decent. You maybe you'd leave out Guardiola against Tottenham, but again, you're looking for attacking returns out of this. So yeah, I just think like you can obviously rotate these guys. Like if Konate's got a rubbish fixture, he's probably you leave him out of the team or something like that. If an Aït-Nouri's got an amazing fixture, or Guardiola's got a great fixture, or Dina's got a great fixture, and vice versa. If Dina's got a bad fixture, maybe you leave him out. If it's a poor offensive and defensive fixture, say a Liverpool or Man City, maybe you leave him out of the team. In the midfield, I think that threemium of Palmer, Salah, Saka is optimal at the moment. I think you can fit them in your team nicely and still have some other like really good players. It doesn't really lose a lot given the forward line that you can have. I think you can opt to have 2 of them. Like maybe you want a Bruno Fernandes in there. Maybe you want like a Luis Diaz, Diego Jota. Maybe Garnacho becomes a good option, or Ahmad becomes a good option over the next few game weeks. Yeah, I mean there are some maybe other options that maybe you want to come out of one of the Palmer, Salah, Saka. Perhaps Saka's injured. We'll see. And Bumo, I think, is obviously like everyone's got him at the moment. You could easily opt for somebody different. We'll work on this through the game week, but I think he's a nice player. Semenyo with that great fixture run over the next few game weeks, I think that's a really nice offensive fixture run for him, and that really continues West Ham, Palace, so that's really nice. Semenyo, someone I'd definitely look to have in on a wild card. And then the 3 main guys up front, really, I think if you don't have Erling Haaland over the next few game weeks, like these guys are really awesome And then I think when Salah does move away, like you could easily look to sort of switch out a Salah, maybe bring in probably it'd probably be Wissa because he goes off. So those two would probably come out over AFCON. You get Haaland. Oh, sorry, not Chris Wood. Who was that? Cunha. Yeah, and you'd have to switch somebody else. Maybe you'd downgrade a Canate at that point. I knew he would come out. Maybe you'd have to deal with having a budget defender. Maybe FaZe is not the best option. I know there's an Ipswich guy at the moment. I like 0.3.9 that's actually playing while Greaves is injured. What's his name? Burgess is playing at the moment due to injury for Ipswich. Yeah, and like maybe he'll become defensive fodder, but yeah, that's something you could consider. Something like that. I don't know. And you probably play 3 or 4 at the back each week. 3 or 4 in the midfield, and then 3 up front. So it'd be like a 3-4-3 or 4-3-3, or probably 3-4-3 every week. You're going to be wanting to play with that team. Maybe you play a 4-4-2 one of the weeks. Yeah, I think that's probably where I'd go. I won't end with that screen because I think the important. Who do we have in here? Ignorant. This is probably the wildcard draft that at the moment I'm looking at, and then that's probably where I'd look to go in 17. But this at the moment, I think this at the moment looks nice. Looks really nice. Yeah, we'll do a wildcard draft later in the week for you guys. But yeah, at the moment, maybe it'll end up with the same thing. But yeah, this is what I'm looking at the moment. So thanks, guys. If you watched this far, really appreciate it. Again, please like and subscribe to the channel. Stay tuned for some content over the upcoming weeks. Post some comments on the video if you've got any thoughts or if you want some help with your team. I'll respond to all the comments. So I really enjoyed chatting to a bunch of you guys. And I do want to give one big shout out to one of my subscribers, Finners, who helped me put a banner together for my YouTube channel at the moment. It looks really nice, actually. Might even show it on the screen. How do we get that banner? Anyway, check out my banner if you haven't checked it out. On TV, it looks even better. So thanks, Finners. Really appreciate that, mate. That was a big help. Thanks everybody for watching and subscribing to the channel. And I'll release a bunch more content this week around wildcards and also sort of making sure you make the right decisions around making sure you get those. If you are on wildcard, press the button now. Try and get those guys in that have a sort of potential to increase in price. You might catch a double price rise and be able to sell them towards the end of the game week. Thanks again, guys. Have a great week. Good luck with FPL.